what I'm gonna do today is, it's night. Gonna read only the English major shift. Major shift? English major shift. I'm not perfect in pronunciation and grammar. Gonna check my video first if I can hear myself. Okay. Okay, I can hear myself loud and clear. It's not loud, it's just clear. Language variation. The study of those features that differ systematically as we compare different groups of speakers or the same speaker in different situations. Language varies from another language. Place, situation, context, and differences. Language universals, same tributes or similarities, common ground of languages. Those categories and rules that all human languages, past and present, have in common. Example, sounds. All languages, of course, have sounds. Dialect, location or geography. Dialect is a variety of a language which is used in a certain geographical area. 1. A systematic variety of a language is specific to a particular group. 2. Dialects may differ in vocabulary, pronunciation, and even morphology and syntax. Isogloss, fact, lines that separate places. The line marking the limit of the distribution of a linguistic feature on a map. A line that demarcates the area in which some phonological, lexical, morphological, or syntactic feature can be found. Sociolect. Convo. 1. A variety of language used by people in the same socio-cultural position. 2. A regional variety that gains social political priority over others. 3. Used for education, scholarship, and state administration all over the country. Balik lagi ko una ang sociolect, a variety of language used by people in the same socio-cultural position. 2. A regional variety that gains social political priority over the others. 3. Used for education, scholarship, and state administration all over the country. Okay, na. Number 4 na ko. The standard variety is no longer restricted to the geographical area where it was originally used, but it associated with people who are educated, who are at the top of the social cultural scale no matter where they live. Moto ang sociolect. Pidgin. Transactional. Basic words that is important to a person, words that are needed in communication. 1. The simplified version of a language containing features of one or more languages used. Nabalik na ang signal. Pigeon ta sa number 2, di pa manampiling ra. 2. A linguistic system used when speakers of different languages come into contact through trade or colonization. Creole. When a pidgin becomes the native language of a community, it is called a Creole. A more complex system and becomes the native language of a later generation. Slang. A very informal language with a vocabulary composed typically of coinages and arbitrarily changed words. arbitrarily changed words such as the ones often created by young speakers. Register. Conditioned by the subject matter in connection with which the language is being used. Each field of interest, activity, occupation is associated with a special vocabulary, and it is mainly these vocabulary differences that underlie the different registers. Jargon. Pedagogy, teacher's strategy. When the register of a field is full of technical terms which those who have received no training in that field cannot understand. Idiolect. Exclusive to us. Example, your vocabulary, accent, diction, now you uses the word you own it, your own words. The total idiolect, the total of all varieties of a language that a person knows, is the person's idiolect. The amount of a language that an individual possesses. Code switching. The ability to change from one variant to another. Capacity to switch. Purist English don't believe to code switch though. SLA or second language acquisition, it's not wrong. In fact, it is a skill. Someone just can't entirely communicate the language. Diglossia. Two tongues. Two distinct varieties of a language co-occur in a speech community, one with a high social prestige and one with low social prestige. Ang bilingualism, knowledge of two languages. Language acquisition, pre-linguistic stages. 3 stages of vocal production. 1. The crying stage, birth to 2 months, includes other reflexive sounds or involuntary sounds such as burping, coughing, sighing, and sneezing. 2. The cooing stage, 2 to 5 months. Laughter stage, characterized primarily by vowel-like sounds. Laughter also begins during this stage at around 4 months. 3. Bubbling stage, bilabial, characterized by syllable-like consonant-vowel sounds. Types of bubbling. Reduplicative or syllabic bubbling consists of repetitions of a syllable. Example, ba ba ba. Variegated bubbling, one syllable. Characterized by strings that vary consonant vowels. Example, baga, baga. Jargon bubbling, mimic, copying parents' intonation, mimicking parents, characterized by rhapsodic or intonational patterns reminiscent of adult speech. Proto-words, baby words, a form that does not correspond to an adult form but that is used consistently by a particular child for a particular referent or situation. Holoprestic stage. Babies begin to produce one or two recognizable words, producing single word sentences. The one word utterance may be used in complex and contexts which would account to different grammatical construction in the adult language. Telegraphic stage. Content words. No function words and grammatical morphemes. Most are content words are open class. Closed class are somehow absent. Example, baby kiss. Theoretical approaches to first language acquisition or nativism. Mentalism by Noam Chomsky. Enitheism, universalism, connotivism. 1. Human beings are born with all the knowledge that they will eventually have as adults. 2. Focuses on the fact that much of human behavior is biologically determined. 3. Human beings, by virtue of their characteristic genetic structure, are born in an initial mental stage in which general properties of human language are already specified. Human beings are born with part of their grammar already in place. Biologically determined language initial mental state. The environment makes only a basic contribution, that is the availability of people who speak to the child. Therefore, the child's biological endowment or LAD will do the rest. LAD, language acquisition device, an imaginary black box existing somewhere in the brain, contains the principles which are universal to all human languages. Critical period hypothesis or CPH. Age 2 to puberty or puberty language is active. Lenberg, there is a specific and limited time period for the lad to work successfully. The best evidence for the CPH is that virtually every child learns language on a similar schedule in spite of different environments. Empiricism, behaviorism by B.F. Skinner. A child is born with no linguistic knowledge, and that all linguistic ability is somehow learned throughout life by making associations among events in the environment. Focuses on the fact that much of human behavior is culturally determined. Much of our behavior is a function of specific environmental factors. Skinner proposed that language is learned essentially through vaguely defined powers of association, and that human linguistic communication is a stimulus-response change. This view holds that language is not necessarily a human-specific capacity. Language learning is the result of imitation, practice, and feedback on success. Imitation, word for word repetition. Practice, repetitive manipulation of form. Feedback on success, positive reinforcement, habit formation. Nativism versus empiricism. Nativism, mentalism. Ang empiricism kay behaviorism. Ang nativism kay kang Chomsky o ang behaviorism kay kang Skinner. Ang nativism mind has more innate structure. Ang empiricism kay mind has less innate structure. Nativism language acquisition is primarily biologically determined, while empiricism language acquisition is primarily culture determined. Language is acquired. Language is learned by Ingon Piaget. Interactionism. You have capacity, but it depends in the environment. One, this position views that language develops as a result of the interplay between the innate learning ability of children and the environment in which they develop. 2. Piaget. Language is dependent upon and springs from cognitive development. That is, children's cognitive development determines their language development. 3. He argued that the developing cognitive understanding is built on the interaction between the child and the things which can be observed, touched, and manipulated. Second language acquisition or SL or L2. The study of how native speakers of one language acquire another language. Major theories of language acquisition. First, the acculturation model. Learn through cultural content more on personal. The process of becoming adapted to a new culture. 2. Nativization model. Nativization by Anderson consists of assimilation wherein the learner makes the input conform to his own internalized view of what constitutes to the L2 system. Our second language. There are ways to learn the second language: social and psychological. Social is environment, then how near or far your advantage because of social factor. One, social distance to the language, then psychological one's affective variables, example motivation, positive attitude, just like that. Assimilation of L2, paginization, oversimplification, internal norm. In SVA or singular to plural noun. Add s or es ang verb kay add s or es gyapon. Third is denativization, accommodation of L2. External norm involves accommodation wherein the learner adjusts his internalized system to make it fit to the input. 4. Accommodation model focuses on inter-ethnic communication. It is how the in-group defines itself in relation to the out-group of that is important. For the second language acquisition, muna siya ang the accommodation model. In-group ug out-group. Ang in-group, how you identify within your ethnic group. Out-group, the target language group. Upward convergence kay outgroup English ang outgroup kay English din outgroup lang gyapon Tagalog din. Downward convergence kay stick what you know, use the language you want. Ana na siya day. I will fix this because I want to learn the language. Number 5 kay the discourse theory. Language development should be considered in terms of how the learner discovers the meaning potential of language by participating in communication. 6. Monitor model. Wala siya meaning. The acquisition learning hypothesis by Krashen has concluded that there are two systems of language acquisition that are independent, related. Acquisition versus create acquisition is greater than learning. Krashen argues that acquisition is a more important process of constructing the system of a language than learning because fluency in L2 performance is due to what we have acquired, not what we have learned. The monitor hypothesis: monitor is our learning. The acquired system acts to initiate the speaker's utterances and is responsible for spontaneous language use. The learned system acts as a monitor, making minor changes and polishing what the acquired system has produced. Conditions of monitor use: sufficient time, focus on form and correctness, must know the rules. Three types of monitor users. Overusers are performers who feel they must know the rule for everything and do not entirely trust their feel for grammaticality in the second language. They use the monitor all the time. Ang underusers kay they appear to be entirely dependent on what they can pick up of the second language. These are learners who have not learned or who prefer not to use their conscious knowledge. Optimal users are the performers who use learning as a real supplement to acquisition monitoring when it does not get in the way of communication. The natural order hypothesis: acquisition versus learning. Ang acquisition kay the product of a subconscious process very similar to the process children undergo when they acquire their first language. Learning, the product of formal instruction, and it comprises a conscious process which results in conscious knowledge about the language. The acquisition of grammatical structures follows a natural order which is predictable. The order of acquisition remains the same regardless of explicit instruction. The input hypothesis: the learner improves and progresses along the natural order when he or she receives second language input that is one step beyond his or her current stage of linguistic competence. The affective filter hypothesis. Krashen claims that learners with high motivation, self-confidence, self-confidence, a good self-image, and a low level of anxiety are better equipped for success in second language acquisition. Teaching listening. The goal of teaching listening produce students who can use listening strategies to maximize their comprehension in oral input, identify relevant and non-relevant information, and tolerate less than word by word comprehension. The nature of listening. It takes up as much as 50% of our everyday communication time. 2. Main channel of classroom instruction. 3. The most used language skill. 4. Ironically neglected most of the time. Different views of listening in language teaching. Listening as a skill, listening comprehension skills or enabling skills, listening for detail, listening for specific information, teacher directed, listening for jest, listening to get only the main and most important ideas, most important point. Nasa kulit chat. Tanga ano. Tanan ako kung maklaro. Managtis siya. Drawing inferences, nasa ang different views of listening in language teaching. Drawing inferences, listening to fill in gaps and draw conclusions from the message uttered. Listening selectively, listening only to specific parts of the input. You as a learner, you need part of story. You are not teacher directed. Making predictions, listening to create anticipations before and while listening. Example aning making predictions kay guessing game, creating interest of what to happen next to of the story. Moto siya ang under sa listening as a skill, ang listening for detail, listening for gist, drawing inferences, listening selectively, and making predictions. 2. Bottom up listening. Bottom up listening. In this process, teaching primarily focuses on sounds that are used to build up units of information such as words, phrases, clauses, and sentences. It is assumed that by understanding these small units, the oral input will eventually be understood. Hence, comprehension is built from bottom sounds to up or understanding. 3. Top-down processing. This process may be referred to as the opposite of bottom-up. In top-down processing, the assumption is that learners must learn how to apply their schema or background knowledge to facilitate in comprehension. It is generally believed now that processing of information is neither top-down nor bottom-up alone. It is now common knowledge that processing occurs at the same time in what is known as parallel processing by A. Senk 1993. In some instances, one type of processing might take precedence over the other, depending on the amount of practice an individual has had on a specific task. Factors that influence learners' listening. 1. Knowledge of the language system. A learner would find difficulties or ease when listening if he or she is aware of the linguistic system of the language being used. 2. Background knowledge or the topic. A learner would find it easy or difficult to understand messages depending on how much schema does he or she have in relation to the message. 3. Knowledge of the situation and context. A learner would find it easy or difficult to understand messages if he or she knows the situation and or issues involved for creating such messages. What makes listening difficult? The 8 characteristics of spoken language that highly influence the processing of speech and can make the listening process difficult by Brown 1994. 1. Clustering or chunking. Speakers break down speech into smaller groups of words due to memory limitations. Clauses are common constituents, but phrases within clauses are even more easily retained for comprehension. In teaching listening comprehension, it helps students to pick out manageable clusters of words. Redundancy, rephrasing, repetitions, elaborations, and little insertions of I mean and you know, which help hearer to process meaning of offering more time and extra information. In teaching listening comprehension, it helps students to be aware that not every new sentence or phrase would necessarily contain new information and by looking for the signals of redundancy. For example, Marga, hey Cassie, how's it how's it going? Cassie, pretty good Marga. How's your weekend? Marga, oh, it was terrible. I mean the worst you could imagine. You know what I mean. Cassie, yeah, I've had those days. Well, like what happened, Marga? Well, you're not gonna believe this, but my boyfriend and McCoy, I think you met him at my party. Anyway, he and I drove up to Point Reyes, downtown. So we were driving along, minding our own business, when this dude in one of those four wheelers, like a Bronco or something, comes up like 3 feet behind and us, and like tailgates us on these crazy mountain roads after that they're like so. He's about to run us off the road, and that's the example. 3. Reduce forms. Contraction, pinaikli na word. Ay, nasa akong lips eh. Reduce forms. Number 3. Reduction can be phonological, morphological, syntactic, or pragmatic. These pose significant difficulties, especially to those who have initially been exposed to the full forms of the English language. Phonological, yet, did you eat yet? Morphological, I'll, I will, you'd, you would. Syntactic, elliptical forms like when will you cook? Well, when you come back. When will you come back? Tomorrow, maybe. Pragmatic, phone rings in a house, child answers, cuts the phone and yells to another room in the house, Mom, phone! Performance variables, mo na ang number 4. Mannerism lead to difficulty in listening. Hesitations, false starts, pauses, and corrections which can easily interfere with comprehension in second language learners. Learners have to train themselves to listen for meaning in the meaning. In the midst of all these distracting performance variables, for example, but I also to go this, of course, if you're playing well, you're playing well, then you get uptight about your game, you get keyed up all, and it's easy to concentrate. You're playing well, and with a chance, then it's easier, much easier to get in there and start to you don't have to think about it. I mean, it's gotta be automatic. 5. Colloquial language, idiom or slang. Idioms, slang, reduced forms, shared cultural knowledge. Learners who have been exposed to standard written English and or textbook language sometimes find it difficult to deal with colloquial language. Say 6. 6. Rate of delivery. How fast or slow a speaker speaks. In listening, the hearer may not always have the opportunity to stop the speaker. Instead, the stream of speech will continue to flow. Stress. Kana imong gibatik bitaw. Stress, rhythm, and intonation ang number 7. The prosodic features of the English language are very important for comprehension. English speech can be a terror for some learners as mouthfuls of syllable come spilling out between stress points. Intonation patterns are significant for interpreting messages like sarcasm, endearment, insult, solicitation, praise, etc. 8. Interaction. The hardest factor are difficulty in listening. not godlike. Interaction to learn to listen is also to learn to respond and to continue a chain of listening and responding. Students need to understand that good listeners in conversation are good responders. How to negotiate meaning, that is, to give feedback, to ask for clarification, or to maintain a topic. Mauto siya ang ano? Mauto siya ang lugay kayo. Factors that influence learners' listening. Una kay knowledge of the language system. 2. Background knowledge. 3. Knowledge of the situation and context. What makes listening difficult? Mo siya ang 8 characteristics day. 8 characteristic. Clustering, redundancy, reduced forms, performance variables, colloquial language, rate of delivery, stress, rhythm, and intonation. 8. Interaction. Types of listening. 1. Appreciative. 2. Informative. 3. Critical. 4. Therapeutic. Ang appreciative kay listening for enjoyment, listening to music. Informative, listen to learn something new, lecture or podcast. Critical, the goal is to evaluate or scrutinize what is being said. Therapeutic kay listen to support others but not to judge them. Types of classroom listening performance. 1. Reactive or imitative. Pronunciation or parroting. Listening to the surface structure of an utterance for the sole purpose of repeating it back to you. The role of the listener is merely a tape recorder. The only role that reactive listening can play in an interactive classroom is in a brief choral or individual drills that focus on pronunciation. 2. Intensive, bottom-up grammar. Techniques whose only purpose is to focus on components, phonemes, words, intonation, discourse, markers, etc. of discourse. Students single out certain elements of spoken language or bottom-up. Una ang intensive. 3. Responsive. Q&A. There's a question that you need to respond. Example kay oral recitation. Responsive consists of short stretches of a teacher language designed to elicit immediate responses. The student's task is to process the teacher talk immediately and to fashion an appropriate reply. 4. Selective, top-down. The task of the student is not to process everything that was said, but rather to scan the material selectively for certain information, to be able to find important information in the field of potentially distracting information. It is different from intensive listening in that the discourse is in relatively long lengths, speeches, media broadcasts, stories, and anecdotes. Techniques could ask students to listen for people's names, dates, certain facts or events, main ideas and or conclusions. 5. Extensive. Entire lecture. Aims to develop a top-down global understanding in spoken language. Require the student to invoke other interactive skills, example, note-taking, discussion for full comprehension. 6. Interactive. Grammar. All 1 to 5 listening performance covered. Under niya ang maapil ani niya kay ang reactive or imitative, intensive, responsive, selective, o extensive kay all five listening performance madaang makover. So includes all five of the above types as learners actively participate in discussions, debates, conversions, role plays in other pair and group work. In other group work. Minum sa agwata. Tubig. Water, tubig. Uwi kayo. Listening techniques from beginning to advanced. Beginning level listeners kay sa bottom-up exercises, discriminating between phonemes, selecting details from the text. Intermediate level listeners, finding the stressed syllable, recognizing pertinent details in the speech stream. Advanced level listeners kay identify specific points of information, use feature of sentence, stress and volume to identify important information for note taking. Top-down exercises ang beginning level listeners kay discriminating between emotional reactions, getting the gist of the sentence. Ang intermediate level listeners kay listen to identify the speaker or the topic, listen to evaluate themes and motives. Advanced level listeners kay use the introduction of the lecture to predict its focus and direction. Find the main idea of a lecture segment. Interactive exercises ang beginning level listeners kay build a semantic network of word association following directions. Ang intermediate level listeners kay discriminating between registers of speech and tones of voice, use knowledge of reduced forms to clarify the meaning of an utterance. Ang advanced level listeners kay use the knowledge of the text and lecture content to discover the lecturer's misstatements, use incoming details to determine the accuracy of predictions about the content. Teaching speaking. The goal is communicative efficiency. Learners should be able to make themselves understood who can competently express themselves. They should try to avoid confusion in the message due to faulty pronunciation, grammar, or vocabulary. Moreover, learners should also learn now how to observe the social and cultural rules that apply in each communication situation. The nature of speaking. 1. Two-way process between speaker and listener. 2. Involves the productive skill of speaking and receptive skill of listening with understanding. 3. Encoding the message the speaker wishes to convey in appropriate language. Different views of speaking in language teaching. 1. The place of pronunciation teaching. In the advent of communicative language teaching approaches, issues on whether phonological details of the language should be taught or not have been debated upon. Since some learners, specifically adults, will never acquire an accent-free command of language, some teachers find pronunciation as unimportant. The most relevant features of pronunciation, stress, rhythm, and intonation are given high priority instead of the role of articulation within words. 2. Accuracy and fluency. Accuracy, ability to use correct, clear, articulate, grammatically, grammatically and phonologically correct roles of language, and fluency, natural, smooth, and flowing should be both prioritized. However, current approaches to language teaching lean strongly towards message oriented techniques. However, however, current approaches to language teaching lean strongly towards message oriented techniques, teaching language use rather than language oriented techniques, teaching language usage. 3. Affective factors. Anxiety generated over risks of blurting out things that are wrong, stupid, or incomprehensible. Because of the language ego that informs people that you are what you speak, learners are reluctant to be judged by hearers. Teachers and teaching environments should then be warm and embracing, no matter how halting or broken their attempts may be. For interaction effect. The greatest difficulty that learners have in learning to speak is in the interactive nature of most communication. One learner's performance is always colored by that of the person interlocutor. He or she is talking with interlocutor effect. Thus, teachers should not create a godlike characteristic during interactions with students. Motto ang different views of pronunciation teaching. 1. Kay the place of pronunciation teaching. 2. Accuracy and fluency. 3. Affective factors. 4. Interaction effect. 4 lang sila kabuok. Factors affecting pronunciation learning. 1. Native language. The most influential factor affecting a learner's pronunciation. Teachers will be able to diagnose students' difficulties if teachers are familiar with the sound system of a learner's native language. 2. Age. Children under the age of puberty or poverty, dili siya poverty no kay kahirapan, puberty stand an excellent chance of sounding like a native if they have continued exposure in authentic contexts. Beyond the age of puberty, there is no Beyond the age of puberty, there is no particular advantage attributed to age. The younger the better is a myth. Okay. Teachers should remind their students that youth has no special advantage. 3. Exposure. Quality and intensity of exposure are more important than mere length of time. If class time spent focusing on pronunciation demands the full attention and interest of the students, the greater chance of reaching their goals. 4. Innate phonetic ability, ear for language. If a person has had early exposure to language, he would have a knack on the language, whether he remembers the language or not. If pronunciation seems to be naturally difficult for some students, they should not despair. With some effort and concentration, they can improve their competence. 5. Identity and language ego. One's attitude towards speakers of the target language and the extent to which the language ego identifies with those speakers. Positive attitudes towards those people who speak the language. 6. Motivation and concern for good pronunciation. The intrinsic motivation is the strongest factor that would affect the learners. The higher the motivation or concern, bigger possibility to reach their goals. Motto ang factors affecting pronunciation learning. 1 is native language, 2 age, 3 exposure, 4 innate phonetic ability, 5 identity and language ego, 6 motivation and concerns for good pronunciation. What makes speaking difficult? 1 clustering. Some learners don't know when to pause. They should be trained that speaking have thoughts, units, or breaths groups. 2. Reduce forms. Some learners do not know how to make contractions, deduce vowels, shorten statements, etc. 3. Performance variables. Some learners find it difficult to avoid using fillers such as well, you know, I mean, like, etc., especially during formal speech presentations. 3. Colloquial language. Some learners find it difficult to look and use correct words, idioms, and phrases that are appropriate for a particular speech act. 4. Rate of delivery. Some learners are either too slow or too fast. They should be trained on how to deliver at an acceptable speed. 5. Stress, rhythm, and intonation. Learners find it difficult to follow the rhetoric rules of a target language, usually because of mismatches or differences between the native language and the target language. Example, Filipino is syllable time while English is stress timed. 6. Interaction. If learners would not have any avenue to interact, then learning how to speak would be difficult, if not impossible. Types of classroom speaking performance. Types of performance kay imitative speaking. Characteristics, student simply parrots back, imitate a word or phrase or sentence. Task niya kay word repetition, pronunciation, drills, stress intonation. Intensive speaking kay characteristics designed to practice some phonological and grammatical aspect of language. Task directed response read aloud, sentence or dialogue completion, tasks, oral questionnaires, picture cues, tasks. Responsive speaking. Short replies to teacher or student initiated questions or comments. Replies do not extend into dialogues. Such speech can be meaningful and authentic. Ang task niya kay question and answer, eliciting instructions and directions, paraphrasing a story or a dialogue. Interactive speaking. 1. Transactional. 2. Interpersonal. Transactional, carried out for the purpose of conveying or exchanging specific information, involves relatively long stretches of interactive discourse, negotiative nature. Interpersonal, kay carried out for the purpose of maintaining social relationships. Ang task kay interviews, role play discussions, problem solving, games, conversations, information gap, activity telling long stories, extended explanations. Pagdali, badi. Nanlian ang isda. Extensive speaking monologue. Ang characteristics niya ka usually for intermediate to advanced levels. So, kaninom siya tubig. Ay, basta. Mana, badi, manginom og tubig sa aquarium. Baagi siya kay mainom. Diri na ta sa extensive speaking monologue. Usually for intermediate advanced levels, tasks involve complex, relatively lengthy stretches of discourse. The register is more formal and deliberative. Extended monologues can be planned or impromptu. Ang task niya kay oral reports, summaries, short speeches, picture cued, storytelling, retelling a story or a news event. Task as transactional, interaction, and performance. 1. Talk as transaction. What is said to be done or understanding. Talk as transaction refers to situations where the focus is on what is said or done. The message and making oneself understood clearly and accurately is in the central focus rather than how the participants interact socially with each other. Examples are ordering food from a menu in a restaurant, asking someone for directions on the street, classroom group discussions and problem-solving activities, making a telephone call to obtain flight information. 2. Talk as interaction. Talk for a specific transaction, most difficult. Talk as interaction, the most difficult skill to teach since interactional talk is a very complex and subtle phenomenon that takes place under the control of unspoken rules. Best taught by providing examples embedded in naturalistic dialogues that model features such as opening and closing conversations, making small talk, recounting personal incidents and experiences, and reacting to what others say. For example, A. Nice weather today. B. Yes, it is. A. I hope the weather is nice for the weekend. B. Me too. A. To, the buses to school are always so crowded. B. Yes, they are. 3. Talk as performance. For evaluation, tests or defense. Tends to be in form of monologue rather than dialogue. Often follows a recognizable format and is closer to written language than conversational language. It is often evaluated according to its effectiveness or impact on the listener. Examples are giving a class report about the school trip, giving a speech of welcome, making a making a sales presentation. Take note. Tama na, Ming? Stages in speaking lesson. 1. Presentation stage. Pre-activity phase. Pinaka-involved si teacher. Teacher is bida, student is passive. Teacher is informant, inform student what they should do pre-activity phase kay pre-speaking, before speaking, sage on the stage. Sa presentation stage or pre-activity phase, teacher informant students listen and try to understand. Activities should be minimal so as to allow students to participate and perform later. Task-based only in the classroom, students do the performance or talking. Teacher is the facilitator. Simulation, real-life application. 2. Practice stage. While or main activity, speaking activity. Teacher monitor or facilitator, students do most of the talking, meaningful, authentic, and memorable. Practice. 3. Production stage. Teacher, manager, guide, advisor, students use the language for themselves. Free use of language. Free expression is more important than mistakes. Opportunities to use language as they wish make students become more aware that they have learned something, thus they become encouraged to go on. Ugay ito mo. Oh, daming ayaw sa salak. Wala na ta. She's gone out of my life. Hinay ang signal. Yun sa manis iring ako. Tamak-tamak kanila. %200 maning magnifier na ning iring. Pang matug ka diya mong nawala ko da. Mahimato sa na airplane mode day sa iring. Tamaka ng padayon ba nalangan sa iring nagtamak-tamak. Teaching reading teaching reading The goals of teaching reading is similar with listening and speaking. Teaching reading, of course, entails certain goals. The following are just some of them. Schema activation. 1. For learners to understand a new text, he or she should be able to connect this to previous knowledge or schemata. Connect reading material to prior knowledge. Kini si Kusmi kaalingungog. Schema activation hints to teach reading successfully. A reading lesson should provide opportunities for learners to make necessary connections with what they know and what the text offers. Brainstorming, previewing, and showing graphic organizers are visual aids. 2. Vocabulary development. The more words learners know, the easier it is for them to connect with the text and understand it. A reading lesson should inevitably develop vocabulary strategies, or what some writers call word attack skills. Some of the words should be taken into consideration are high frequency words, or words that are usually encountered or repeated in the text. High frequency, high utility, madalas ginagamit. Basic sight words you don't need dictionary. That's the meaning of basic sight words. Anong masabtan lang ba? Academic words, or words that are used with a content area, jargons, specific field area. Technical words, or words that may have a different meaning in a certain discipline. Register change meaning use depending on the one who use it. Literary words, or words Literary words are those words which are commonly used in literature. The 3 tiers of vocabulary development. Level 1 or Tier 1. Ang Tier 1 or Level 1, most basic words, even kids knows these words. Used everywhere. It is used everywhere. Tier 1 or Level 1 consists of the most basic words, rarely require direct instruction, and typically do not have multiple meanings. Sight words, noun words, verbs, adjectives, and early reading words. Examples: book, girl, sad, run, dog, and orange. Tier 2. Adult literary or adult literacy. Involvement to literary or profession, higher level na siya. Ang Tier 2 or Level 2 consists of high-frequency words that occur across a variety of domains. Words occur often in adult conversations and literature. The most important words for direct instruction, because they are good indicators of a student's progress through school. Examples: masterpiece, fortunate, industrious, measure, and benevolent. May isa dito gabi abig hilom ni excuse me. Tier 3 or Level 3, jargons, low frequency. Low frequency words that occur in specific domains, subjects in school, hobbies, occupations, geographic regions, technology, weather, etc. Examples: economics, isotope, asphalt, Revolutionary War, and creep. Moto siya ang the 3 tiers of vocabulary development: Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Pero ikaw nga gikapoy, tired na ka. 3. Comprehension development. Asa under ang Tier 1? Under siya sa vocabulary development. 3. Comprehension development. Reading is the process of constructing meaning from print. Hence, it is the ultimate objective of reading instruction to help learners understand a text and develop strategies in understanding a text. Types of reading comprehension skills. Literal reading, the line. Read the lines, recall information stated directly and explicitly in the text. What, when, where, who. Sequence. Literal reading, the factual, recall character, setting, or time. Details, action, event, list, sequence. Answers found directly in the text or by information readily available in outside sources. Inferential or interpretive reading. Read between the lines. Interpret information implied in the text. Subtext is not outlier. Di ko sure, basta. But we are the one who understood. Motive, we are the ones who interpret. Muna siya inferential interpretive reading. Inferential answers to these questions may be implied address motive of author or a character. Found by following patterns and seeing relationships among parts of the text. Interpret theme, main idea, and summarize. Critical or evaluative reading or global. Read behind and beyond the lines. Evaluate information based on personal knowledge and experiences. Judgment involved. You involved in the story. There's a reaction. Metafiction. Merge the fiction and non-fiction. Combination of both. Fictional. Uncritical or evaluative reading or global, connecting answers to these questions. Emphasize the so what of the text, link to text to prior knowledge, other text or human. Experiences in life. Giving an opinion about character, events, realistic author's decision, point of view. 4. Understanding text organization or profiling. Understanding the content goes hand in hand with understanding how it is organized. Hence, students need to learn how to relate the following to the text. 1. Text type, narrative or expository. 2. Genre, classification. Example, horror. 3. Hierarchy of ideas in exposition, summarizing. 4. Significant details in narrative and expository text, note-taking or outlining. 5. Use of graphic organizers. The fifth. Okay, unsa man I mean? The 5th goals of teaching reading. Application. Reading instruction should also develop the learner's ability to relate their learning to real life situations, reading instruction can end by 1. Valuing, 2. Appreciating, 3. Relating lessons to own life. For linking lesson to explain real life context, padagan siya. 5. Responding creatively using multiple intelligences. What are the reading processes? Bottom-up reading is text to brain. Assumes that reading begins with print. Nasa ko i-search. Diba katula atong dalunggan? What are the reading processes? 1. Bottom-up reading assumes that reading begins with print, letters, words, phrases, sentences, meaning. However, problems arise because in some instances, knowing the linguistic features of a text would not necessarily bring a reader to its meaning. Consider this passage from Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass. 'Twas brillig and the sletty tops degrer and gimble in the web. All Memsi were the Borogubs and the mom rats outgrab. Does it make sense? No, it does not. But a linguistic analysis can tell you that, for example, sletty is an adjective and grer and glimble are verbs. Grabe, Miming. Maligid ka, sakit na atong paa. Tago-tago. Wala kaya pin. Dire. Dili ka. 2. Top-down reading assumes that reading begins with knowledge and hypothesis in the mind of the reader. Similarly, this presents some situational problems because readers would have different schema because of different experiences. Hence, conclusions might mislead a learner. For example, at first glance, a reader might fill the blanks below with ship or boat and sea or ocean. The blank when sailing across the blank. However, if you would further read it, the blanks may have the following words to fill them. Jerry swung the racket and the ball went sailing across the net. 3. Interactive reading is a reading model that recognizes the interaction of bottom-up and top-down processes simultaneously throughout the reading processes. A popular Chinese proverb may summarize the idea espoused by interactive reading. Tell me and I'll forget. Show me and I may remember. But involve me and I'll understand. Chinese proverb. Phases in a reading lesson. There would be different ways in presenting a reading lesson. However, generally speaking, the following are the parts and contents of a reading lesson. 1. Pre-reading. Simulate the interest of students, building anticipation, getting interest of the students. In pre-reading, this part of the lesson opens the lessons by previewing the new reading lesson. During the pre-reading, teachers may pose a stimulating question, picture, video clip, title, etc. to capture the interest of the learners and prepare them to the main activity or lesson. 2. While reading, they do main activity, give other activity, highly engage while reading. While reading, this is where the main activity or lesson or text is presented. While the reading while reading presents the text to be read, the instruction should not be plainly reading. Identify topic sentence, distinguish between general and specific ideas. The post reading. This is the phase where may aptly be called closure. Reflection paper, close reading cycle, post assessment activity. This is the phase. Sabi may stress ako kay Mostret. And post reading. This is the phase where may aptly be called aptly called closure. Here, the learner's understanding of the new text may be evaluated or linked to other language activities and lessons through the creation of certain outputs or presentations, creative discussions, follow-up writing, exercise. Strategies for reading comprehension, identifying the purpose in reading. Purpose of reading: to be informed, to be persuaded, to be entertained. Efficient reading consists of clearly identifying the purpose in reading something. By doing so, you know what you're looking for and can weed out potential distracting information. 1. Skimming. Muna siya ang strategies for reading comprehension. Identify the purpose in reading. 1. Skimming. Overview, mabilisang basa. Quickly running one's eyes across a whole text, an essay, article, or chapter, for example, to get the gist. 2. Scanning. Target reading specific information. Quickly searching for some particular piece or pieces of information in a text. May ask students to look for names or dates to find a definition of a key concept or to list certain number of supporting details. Tingaw ka isla. Nagunsa mo diha. Natulog na si kuya. Nagdula mo. Dula lang. Si Buddy lang tayo pakita ilay si Nathan. Loe. Nagdula na sila. Ang ikog niya. Buddy. Maninood. Baka mata na si kuya ron. Parting kiniat. La. Mga na to eh. Balangan na nga na. Himuta sa ko. Manghimuta. Oh my God. Okay, balik ta diri no. Turuan ako ang strategies for reading comprehension. Identify the purpose in reading. Efficient reading consists of clearly identifying the purpose in reading something. By doing so, you know what you're looking for and can weed out potential distracting information. 1. Skimming. Overview, mabilisang basa. Quickly running one's eyes across a whole text, an essay, article, or chapter, for example, to get the gist. 2. Scanning. Target reading specific information. Quickly searching for some particular piece or pieces of information in a text. May ask students to look for names or dates to find a definition of a key concept to less certain number of supporting details. 3. Semantic mapping or clustering. First part, second part, middle part, or cluster. Semantic mapping or clustering, grouping ideas into meaningful clusters which helps the reader to provide some order to the chaos. Some strategies in teaching reading. A. Vocabulary development. 1. Structural analysis. Bottom-up approach. Dissect the word itself. Structural analysis is largely focused on the unfamiliar word itself. In this strategy, the meaning of a word is derived by looking at the root word. Structural analysis includes attention to root words, affixes, and inflections. It may also include attention to plural forms, tenses, comparisons, contractions, and compound words. Arias and Acuna 2002 hints learners should be exposed to the different meanings of the affixes in order to use structural analysis. The table below shows some of the most commonly used affixes. Ang prefix kay a, also, an, meaning not or without. Example, atheist or anemic. A, meaning to or towards. Examples, aside, back, ab, also abs, meaning away or from. Abdicate, abstract. Ad, also ac, also ak, af, ag, al, an, ap, at, as, ug at. Meaning movement to, change into, addition in group. Examples, triad, monad, arc, meaning ruler or leader. Examples, monarch, tetrarch. 2. Contextual analysis. Focus not on word but in surrounding elements. Contextual analysis is the strategy that we use in attempting to obtain the meaning of an unfamiliar word by examining the context in which it appears. This strategy encourages you to look for contextual clues. Example, related information that would provide the meaning of the unfamiliar word. Simply put, contextual analysis involves your analysis of other words that surround the unknown word. Some of the most common context clues are the following. A. Synonyms. Example, the newcomers look dubious, his credentials are questionable. B. Antonyms. Example, Doña Mariana's boisterous laughter distracted the calm classroom. C. Examples. It's amazing how Joe maintains his citrus fruit trees. You can see oranges, pumpkins, mandarins, and even lemons in his backyard. D. Comparison and contrast. The tuk-tuk of Thailand, like that of our tricycles, amazes most tourists. B. Comprehension development. 1. Anticipation guide. Lain na sa akong white. Itarungan ako lipstick. Diba? May ayo. Pink. Langayan mo. Lain mo, dili pantay. Pink pag yun. Bastos. Nihawa ang viewership sa manay ay pulos ang kita na. Di magud pantay akong wait. Noon sa mga wait na bati patantag way. Pantay wait. Yung ani mo to ang gamit oh. Yung ana akong gamit katong ganiha dark 10. Lain man. Mo. Lain pud ang nagamit eh. Problemahon man ang. Sige balik na ta. Sa gulay kita. Letter B, comprehension development. 1. Anticipation guide. Anticipation guide. No lipstick rin. Tali na akong bulong samot og basa. Teacher plays the devil's advocate. Give benefit of the doubt. Give statement that provoke them. What if? Nito sa nako sa niya. Natulog ka na, mananaginip ka pa. Magbilang ka ng tupa at sa lamig ng gabi. Okay, anticipation guide consists of a list of statements that are related to the topic of the text your students will be reading. While some of the statements may be clearly true or false, a good anticipation guide includes statements that provoke disagreement and challenge students' belief about the topic. Before reading the text, students indicate for each statement whether they agree or disagree with it. Request. Formulate questions that they discovered when reading. Formulate their predictions. Students ask about what possibly happened in the text. Request is designed to encourage students to A. Formulate their own questions about the material they are reading and develop questioning behavior. B. Adopt an active, inquiring attitude to reading. C. Acquire reasonable purposes of reading. And D. Improve their independent reading comprehension skills. Redens and D. KWL or know what want to know. KWL no want to know learned. No want to know learned. Okay. KWL is the creation of Donna Ogle or Ogle katulak ng ulo. Ang kaspa. And is a 3-column chart that helps capture the before, during, and after components of reading a text selection. Nakaunan sa nakista. Wala slip pa niya. Diba? Nag-study, nagpakaon pag-ista. Uy, ay. Ano to siya basa? Kunuhay, pero nagpakalista. Yang wait bati patagpon mo. You're so ugly when you cry. Wala pa ni hapon naman na magkaon. Diba? Ato na siya sa KWL know, want to know, learn. KWL is the creation of Donna Ogle or Ugly and is a 3-column chart that helps capture the before, during, and after components of reading a text selection. In this strategy, learners are encouraged to fill out column K with what they already know about the topic. Then they will fill out column W with what they want to learn to know about the topic. After reading the selection, they will be filling out column L to list down what they have learned from reading the text. And this strategy Learners monitor their own learning. Mapping provides a visual guide for students to clarify textual information such as characters, problems, settings, reactions, and outcomes. Outline, outline visual, same as outlining chronological per line. Plan, a graphic organizer in which students create a map to visually organize and better understand the information. It includes P, prediction of the content, L, locating the known and unknown information, A, adding words or phrases to the unknown as students locate information, and N, noting new understanding or information about the text. Mo to ang plan. Predict what happened, adding words you learn from selection. Types of classroom reading for performance. 1. Oral reading, pronunciation, segmenting of the words. Oral reading serves as an evaluative check of bottom-up processing skills, double as a pronunciation check serve to add some extra student participation if you want to highlight a certain short segment of a reading passage. 2. Silent reading, eye reading. Intensive reading, grammar editor, proofreader. In intensive reading, students focus on the linguistic or semantic details of a passage, calls attention to grammar forms, discourse markers, and other surface structure details for understanding literal meaning. Content-related reading. Extensive reading, pleasure, and technical for fun. Extensive reading achieve the general understanding of a text. Pleasure and technical reading, teaching writing. The goals of teaching writing produce learners who are able to communicate ideas which are clear, fluent, and effective through the use of written symbols. Nature of writing. Characteristics of a written language. 1. Permanence. Unlike oral language, written language is permanent and can be read and reread as often as one likes. Once it's done, you cannot take it back. Communicate and read to write, revise, edit. Once it is published, you cannot edit it. Communicate ideas which are clear, fluent, and effective. Balik-balik siya. 2. Production time. More time. Writers have more time to plan, review, and revise, unlike speakers who need to plan, formulate, and deliver in a very short span of time. 3. Distance. Interpretation is audience. The writer and the reader are usually away from each other in both time and space. There's no way of clarifying. Separate the reading and writing. We cannot clarify it when it's done. 4. Orthography. Limited writing. Written texts have limited amount of information, unlike oral speech. Example, intonation, stress, speech, volume, junctures. No avenue for feelings. No suprasegmental rhythm. 5. Complexity. Written language is usually composed of complexity. Written language is usually composed of longer clauses and subordinates, while spoken language is usually short. Vocabulary. Get through reading. Writers will learn to take advantage of the richness of English vocabulary. 7. Formality. Writing is more formal and more binding than spoken language. 3 main aspects in writing. 1. Purpose or of objective. Inform, entertain, persuade your reader. Am I writing with a special purpose, or why am I writing? 1. Audience. Sometimes it doesn't match with audience. Example, millennial, old or classic. They did not match. So, who is going to read? Who is going to read? Or for whom am I writing? 2. Function, platform, nature of writing. Am I going to write a report, a letter, or just a write-up? Types of classroom writing performance. 1. Imitative or writing down. Students will simply write down, copy penman's for firm for penmanship, or mag-improve yung spelling, or ingon ana siya. Students will simply write down English letters, words, and possibly in sentences in order to learn the convention of the orthographic code. It is usually done through diction. One, intensive or controlled grammar. Intensive or controlled, students will simply intensive or controlled appears in controlled written grammar exercises would not allow much creativity on the part of the writer. Under niya kay controlled writing transform. Example, the writer may be asked to change all the present tense verbs to past. B. Guided writing with model or guide. Example, na in movie, mo siyang i-write into short story. Example, guided writing, the teacher might get students to tell a story just viewed on a videotape by asking them a series of questions. Dectocomp, example, paragraph is read at normal speed. Then the teacher puts keywords from the paragraph in sequence on the blackboard and asks the students to rewrite the paragraph from the best of their recollection. Ang dictocom kay dictate and rewrite. Rewrite and transform. Self-writing. You write for yourself. Diary. Writing with only the self in mind as the audience. Note-taking. Writing niya si Mama Mambasa. Diary or journal writing. Kuan pang self-writing, you write for yourself. It's example, diary. Writing with only the self in the mind as the audience. Under niya kay note-taking for, under sa self-writing kay note-taking for the purpose of later recall. Diary or journal writing for students. See dialogue journals. Students write thoughts, feelings, and reactions in a journal, and an instructor reads and responds to audiences. Yeah, I'm done reading the majorship. Thank you, Lord. Tapos ako nagbalhin kay. Di ko kabalo kung asa na akong nabasa. Diba tangaism is real? Taas na yun. Mabasa ko gadali sa Gen Ed English. Gen Ed English. So, taas mo siya back to back. Hindi makaya. Good night na eh. Ito, Gen Ed English. Language is dynamic. Parts of speech, the building blocks of language. They function to explain usage of a word in a sentence. Una nga parts of speech kay noun, a word used to name a person, place, thing, state, or quality. Kinds of nouns kay proper nouns or are specific. B. Common nouns are general. C. Collective nouns name groups. D. Mass nouns cannot be counted. E. Concrete nouns exist in the physical world. F. Abstract nouns refer to ideas and feelings. Examples sa proper nouns are kay their first letters are capitalized. Example, Jake, Fenella, Monday, Davao City. Ang common nouns are general. Example kay man, student, clinic, teacher, school. O ang collective nouns kay name groups. Collective nouns name groups. Example, family, army, flock, choir. Ang group kay singular o as an individual kay plural siya. Ang mass nouns cannot be counted. Example kay sugar, salt, flour, feedback, equipment. Kung plural siya kay specific count, kung singular siya kay as general. Ang concrete nouns exist in the physical world. Petals, tables, pens, cups. Kanang masin ug matouch nimo. Ang abstract nouns refer to ideas and feelings. Sadness, joy, brilliance. Functions of nouns. A. Subject of the sentence. Subject or S. The one that is talked about the sentence. Maureen expressed her gratitude to her fans. Ang subject of the sentence kay si Maureen or Maureen. B. Vocative or V indicates that somebody is being directly addressed by the speaker. Ang kaistorya or gaistorya. Where is everybody, Maureen? Moto siya. Si Maureen ang iyahang vocative indicates that somebody is being directly addressed. C. Direct object or DO. The one that receives the action of the verb answers the question who or what after the verb. Example, Maureen kicks the ball. Of course, first find the subject, find the verb, then action of the verb. Unsa iyang gikik ang ball. Ang direct object di kay Maureen kicks the ball. Ang direct object kay ang ball kay mama nang gisipa. Char lang bitaw. Mao siya. Indirect object answers the question to whom or for whom. Maureen left Anna food for the holidays. Maureen left Anna food for the holidays. So, ang indirect object kay si Anna. Subject, noun, predicate, a word, phrase that refers back to the subject comes after a linking verb. Maureen is the actress. Ang B verb niya kay si ang S. Ang subject, noun, predicate kay ang actress. F object, noun, predicate after the D direct object. So comes after a direct object refers back to the object. The group appointed Maureen leader of the club. Ang leader ang object, noun, predicate. G. Object of the preposition comes after a preposition. Maureen correlates love with effort. Okay, dapat mag-love ng effort. So, ang effort ang object of the preposition. A positive is a noun or noun phrase that names another noun right beside it. Maureen, my sister, celebrates her birthday. Ang appositive kay my ay sister. Pronoun. Ang ikaduha nga parts of speech kay pronoun. A word used to replace a noun. Kinds of pronouns. A. Personal pronouns. Refers to people or things which can be singular or plural. Refer to the speaker, the person spoken to, and the person spoken about. Case of function. Ang case niya subjective or nominative. Function, subject of the sentence. Case objective. Ang function, objective of a verb, compound verb, preposition, or infinitive phrase. Possessive kay ang case kay possessive kung function niya kay marker of position, ownership of particular object or person. A. First person, the person talking. Me, us, we, my, our, mine, ours, myself, and ourselves. Then, letter B. Second person, the person spoken to. You, your, yours, yourself, yourselves. C. Third person, the person being talked about. She, he, it, its, they, him, her, them, their, his, hers, theirs, himself, herself, itself, og themselves. Nominative, objective, og possessive. Ang singular first person, I. Sa nominative na siya, I. Sa objective, me. Sa possessive, my o mine. First person, sa first person kay you ang nominative, ang objective kay you, possessive, your o yours. Second person, na siya sa tungod sa third person. Basta sa second person, ang nominative, he, she, it. Objective, him, her, it. Possessive, his, her, hers, ug its. Plural, first person, second person, o third person. Ang nominative kay first person, we. Objective, us, ug possessive, our ug ours. Second person, you ang nominative, ang objective you, ug possessive you ug yours. Sa third person, they ang nominative, ang objective kay them, ang possessive kay their ug theirs. Nominative case. Pronoun 1. Pronoun, action verb, he and me or I sang. He and me sang or I. Ang answer kay me, he and I sang. Di ko familiar. You ang una daw kay for I ang una I, then ang iwit kay me. Basta problema na ay. B verb pronoun. The singer is he or him. The answer is he. A positive pronoun to noun. He, him. My friend is cute. Objective case. Verb pronoun. Action. Example, I gave him a chance. 2. Preposition pronoun. I smiled at him. Possessive case, the bag is mine. B. Indefinite pronouns refer to an in ide- indefinite pronouns refer to an identifiable but not specified person or thing. Singular, any, anybody, nobody, anyone, each, everyone, one, someone, somebody, every, either o neither. Ang plural kay all, some, few, both, several, many. C. Reflexive and intensive pronoun. Say pronoun. Pronoun. Self pronoun. Selves ang plural. Myself, yourself, herself, itself, himself. Reflexive pronoun refers back to the subject in the sentence, gives emphasis to the subject. I owe it to myself. It cannot be deleted. Intensive pronoun is used to emphasize the antecedent or priority. I myself made that decision. Can be deleted kay readable kay kung mana kang I made that decision. Wala, okay lang o wala ang myself. 3. Verb. A content word that denotes an action, occurrence, or existence. 4. Inflections. S ang noun, D ug ed ang past form niya. Ang hang, HANGED, suicide or death. Kinds of verbs. Kinds of verbs. A. Regular verbs form their past tense by adding D or ED to the base form. Jump, jumped, jumped. Ano siya, ED. B. Irregular verbs form their past tense and past participle in several ways. B kay lie present. LIE ang spelling, ang was o were kay lay past na siya, LAY. Ang been lane past participle, ang spelling kay LAIN. Lay lane. Lay ang sabi form niya kay present. Ang was or were kay laid, past na siya. Ang been kay laid past participle. Lie means to recline. Lay means to place something, to put something. Ang lie kay LIE means to recline. LAY means to place something, to put something. C. Linking verbs are used to link or join the subject with a word in the predicate which relates to the subject. The B form of the verb is, are, was, were is the most commonly used linking verb. Other forms become seem, look, smell, appear, feel, taste, sound, remain. He is cute. Ang he kay singular og s ka linking verb. D. Auxiliary verb or helping. Verbs are used together with a main verb. The most common auxiliary verb is have. Has is used in singular or present tense of the verb. Have base form is used in plural present tense of the verb. Had is used in singular plural plural past tense of the verb. Auxiliary verbs must be followed by a past participle of the verbs. He has seen him. We have seen him. I had loved him before. Adjective is a part of speech used to modify nouns and pronouns. Order of adjectives in an adjective phrase. Determiners a, and, the, my, your, etc. Observations: lovely, boring, nice. Size: tiny, small, huge. Shape: round, square, rectangular. Age: old, new, ancient. color, red, blue, green, etc. Origin, British, American, Mexican. Material, gold, copper, salt. Qualifier, limiters for compound nouns. Adverb, ang ikalima nga parts of speech kay adverb. Is a part of speech which modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. It is generally placed immediately before and after the word it modifies. A. Adverb of time. An adverb of time tells us when something is done or happens. We use it at the beginning or at the end of a sentence. We use it as a form or emphasis when we place it at the beginning. Adverbs of time include afterwards, already, last month, now, soon, then, and yesterday. See you later. When will I see you? B. Adverb of place. An adverb of place tells us where something is done or happens. We use it after the verb, object, or at the end of a sentence. Adverbs of place include words such as above, below, here, outside, over there, under, upstairs. My room is upstairs. Do not find love elsewhere. It is here. C. Adverb of manner. An adverb of manner tells us how something is done or happens. Most adverbs of manner end in "ly", such as badly, happily, sadly, slowly, quickly, and others that include well, hard, fast, etc. The people are slowly responding to the call for change. He spoke on politics well. B. Adverb of degree. An adverb of degree tells us the level of extent that something is done or happens. Words of adverb of degree are almost, such, quiet, so, to, very. I so love him. It was quite impressive. C. Adverb of frequency. An adverb of frequency tells us how often something is done or happens. Words used as adverbs of frequency include hardly ever, nearly always, never, occasionally, often, rarely, seldom, sometimes, twice, usually, and weekly. Okay, may naman sa tubig inyong lola. Ano si Mim? Hindi ba? Tapos siyang Charles Nathan. Lain na ang tubig. Tugnaw kayo. Naragay na siya diri, no? Tugnaw mo ang lugar. So that's it. This is cold. So the water is cold. He always organizes shows. I sometimes miss you. Differentiating modifiers. He drove the car fast. He leads a fast life. I gave him a straight response. I went straight to where we first met. Ang he drove the car fast kay adverb. Fast modifies the word drove. He leads a fast life. Adverb fast modifies the word life. Adjective fast ano sa to? Nawala ko na. Differentiating modifiers. He drove the car fast. Adverb fast modifies the word drove. He leads a fast life. Adjective fast modifies the word life. I gave him a straight response. Adjective straight modifies the word response. I went straight to where we first met. Adverb straight modifies the word went. Ilobat na akong yak-yak. I pray you'll be our eyes and watch us where we go, and help us to be wise in times when we don't know. Let this be our prayer when we lose our way. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace. Give us faith so we'll be safe. Balik na kong basa. Preposition. Ang six nga parts of speech kay preposition, a word expressing the relationship between a noun, pronoun, and other elements of a sentence. Preposition of time, at, on, and in. A. We use at to designate specific times. The program will commence at 8 a.m., noon, or midnight. B. We use on to designate days and dates. Results will be out on Sunday. Not all understands the significance of a celebration on June 12th. C. We use in for non-specific times during a day, a month, a season, or a year. In the Philippines, it still rains even in summer. I was conceived in 1992. The jolliest time happens in December. Prepositions of place, at, on, and in. A. We use at for specific addresses. Rofa Papaya lives at Purokwan D, Balagunan, Santo Tomas City, France. So it is at specific addresses. B. We use on to designate names of streets, avenues, etc. I feel cathartic when I am on Boulevard Street. C. We use in for the names of land areas, towns, counties, states, countries, and continents. She dreams of living in Norway. 7. Conjunction. Parts of speech. Seventh parts of speech is conjunction, a word used to connect sentences, clauses, phrases, or words. Connectors. Kinds of conjunctions. A. Coordinating conjunction. Join equals to one another. Example words, phrases, clause. Examples for and nor, but, or, yet, so. Fanboys. Common before fanboys kay Oxford, comma, before conjunction. Examples niya kay fanboys no kay for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. He wanted to stay, but his heart spoke otherwise. Success requires hard work and perseverance. Note, coordinating conjunctions go in between items joined, not at the start or end. Punctuation rules of coordinating conjunction. When a coordinating conjunction joins two words, phrases, or subordinate clauses, no comma should be placed before the conjunction. Okay. Dapat wala daw comma. Cookies and milk. At the beach or by the lakeside. A coordinating conjunction joining three or more words, phrases, or subordinate clauses creates a series of and requires commas between the elements. Nasabot ko sa ibasa wala. Peanuts, cookies, and milk. So naa siya comma after sa peanuts, after food sa cookies, then wala na sa and then milk. What you think, what you say, and what you do. B. Subordinating conjunction. A conjunction that introduces a subordinate clause. Examples of subordination. After. After, in order that. If dili daw siya include sa fanboys kay after. In order that, unless, even if, although, and so far as, until, even though, as, in that, when, how, as far as, lest, whenever, if, as soon as, no matter how, where, in as much as if, now that, wherever, in case that, as though, once, whether, so that. Then, napa because, provided that, while, than, before, since, why, though. C. Correlative conjunction. A correlative conjunction is a paired conjunction that links balanced words, phrases, and clauses. Examples: either, or, neither, nor, not only but also. 8. Interjection is a word that expresses the feeling or emotion and functions independently in a sentence. Not grammar rules, more on contextual daw. Examples: oh, alas, hey, ouch, well, how. Subject-verb agreement, all about numbers, singular or plural. One verb with S is singular, verb without S is plural. He loves the musical. They love the musical. Make the linking verb agree with the real subject. Rona's choices are final. I takes plural verb and am. I believe in you. I am yours. 2. Most cases, collective noun. Subjects take singular verb, but if the group is viewed as individual members, use a plural verb. The orchestra plays a hit song. The orchestra discussed the matter. Discuss, argue, ug debate kay generally plural. 3. Non-count noun. Kaluoy ka to, na ka. Amang ka matulog, tulog na. Nilabtan pag inabisag matulog siya sa ubos. Masalan ko. Non-count noun subjects take singular verb. Example, sugar is sweet. Her feedback is good. Mass nouns can only be pluralized by quantifiers. Nouns such as sugar, rice, and hair, information, and evidence. 3 sacks of rice are heavy. Ayo, tira. Tira lang kami. 4. Some proper noun subjects that ends in s, such as names of cars, diseases, places, as well as book and film, titles, and the word news, take singular verbs. Ay. Magkamiming. For some proper noun subjects that ends in s, such as names of courses, diseases, places, as well as book and film, titles, and the word news, take singular verbs. Example, okay. News or news, politics, physics, mathematics, mumps, and missiles. Tamak-tamakan, bila yung example, Digos is Davao del Sur. Digos is in Davao del Sur. The news was not fake. Economics is my favorite subject. 5. Items that have 2 parts take a plural verb. Slippers, okay. Eyeglasses, trousers, earrings, scissors, sunglasses, pants, pliers. The scissors are cute. Verb is singular when used with word pair. Lain Singular ang my pair of scissors is lost. Verb is singular when used with a word pair. My pair of scissors is lost. 6. Plural subject nouns such as a unit of measurement, distance, weight, time, or amount of money. Matug na ko eh. Goodbye. Basta. God bless.